Hi, everyone. I'm just going to give another moment to let some more people come in, and then we can get started. Perfect. Welcome, everyone. My name is Carmen, and I'm the training coordinator at the Temple Small Business Development Center. The Temple SBDC helps small businesses start and grow. We provide free one-on-one counseling and a variety of low to no cost webinars. We are proud to be a part of the nationally accredited network of SBDCs with over 1,000 centers across the United States. You have joined us this afternoon for Pinterest 101, Pinterest setup and strategies for small businesses. A copy of today's PowerPoint and a link to the recording of this session will be sent out to all attendees. And while all attendees have been muted, we encourage you to post any questions in the chat or Q&A. And now I will turn the floor over to Julia.
Hi, thanks. I'm Julia Bocchese, and I'll be covering today's session on Pinterest. Let me go ahead and share my screen so we can get started. And if you guys want to post your questions either in the chat or the Q&A, I think we'll be doing most of them at the end. But if there's anything that I'm talking about that you need clarification on, or if I use some Pinterest jargon that you want the definition on, just feel free to drop it in the chat, and I will check to make sure I get those answered. So a little introduction on me. So I run a business, Julie Renee Consulting, where I do SEO and Pinterest consulting for small businesses. I added on Pinterest because Pinterest, as we'll get into, is actually a search engine. So there's actually quite a bit of overlap between SEO and Pinterest strategies. So like I said, Pinterest is a search engine. It's actually a visual search engine, and it's the third largest in the world after Google and YouTube. YouTube is number 2 and actually owned by Google. So when people are using Pinterest, they're typically going into search for things. So either inspiration or answers to things, or products. Products are becoming bigger and bigger on Pinterest. There are some social media qualities with Pinterest. So if you have been active on Pinterest, you may have seen they have things that are similar to like Instagram stories now. You can like comment on pins or follow people, but typically people aren't going to Pinterest to kind of like check to see what's going on in people's lives like you would on like Facebook or Instagram. It's really to kind of give people resources and information, and you do that by creating pins, which we'll also get into. So Pinterest has a lot of benefits over other social media platforms, which is one reason why I love Pinterest so much. But like I said, people are coming to Pinterest to search specifically for topics for inspiration. So while you might be sharing things on Instagram or Facebook, if someone really isn't interested in that topic right now or that product right now, they're likely just going to, maybe skim past it, or, maybe open it and save it for later or something. But when people are coming to Pinterest to search for something, and you have a resource for them that helps them, answer whatever question they have, they're much more likely to visit your website, get that information. And from that point, you can also, convert them to clients, get them to sign up to your email list, lots of different ways of converting them to get them to continue to come back to your website. So pins do take a while to, kind of like gain that traction and get a lot of traffic, but they can last much longer than, posts that you see on Facebook or Instagram. I think Twitter, people stop seeing tweets after like 6 hours or, something, but pins can actually live on for months or even years. I have seen clients who have had pins from 2012 still bringing them traffic. So that's 10 years at this point. So something that they created 10 years ago is still bringing traffic to their site. So it's it can be kind of like a time investment at the beginning, but it can pay off for months and years. So I definitely recommend Pinterest if you're looking for, kind of a long-term solution to getting more traffic and leads to your business. So followers also don't really matter. You can have followers on Pinterest, but they don't matter as much as they would on like, Facebook or Instagram for getting people to see your content, because people are coming to Pinterest to search for specific, topics. And even if you have 2 followers, your, content can still rank really well on Pinterest. So it doesn't matter if you have 2 followers or, 10,000 or whatever. You don't need to worry about trying to get more followers like you would on, Instagram, because your content is going to be able to rank, no matter your follower number. And pins can actually rank on Google and Google Images. I've also seen boards and profiles ranking on the first page of Google. So this is a way that you can kind of build that extra traffic. If you are, able to use keywords really well on your pins, you can get that extra boost of traffic from Google as well as Pinterest. And one of the biggest reasons why you should be on Pinterest is that people come to Pinterest to spend money. So almost 90% of people on Pinterest have bought something from a pin. So whether that's they're investing in a service or they have bought a product, they are there to spend money. They are, much more ready to spend money than if they, kind of follow someone on Instagram just because they like their photos. So if you have products that you think, would work well on Pinterest, this is definitely where people are, coming to search for things that they want to, spend money on. And we won't really get into promoted pins, which is the ad platform on Pinterest, because I focus mostly on organic, but just want to mention as another benefit of Pinterest is that one cool thing about the promoted pins, which are, the ads, they can actually live on for much longer than, you're putting money behind the ad, because they integrate into the Pinterest feed. So when someone is searching for something specific, if your promoted pin matches, what they're searching for, that's when it's going to show up. And people can actually save that pin. So if someone has saved it, and even if you stop, running that ad, that pin will continue to live on for, months or even years. So even if you stop putting money behind it, it can still bring you free traffic. So kind of just a cool thing if you're, kind of getting tired of Facebook ads right now, promoted pins might be, a good ad platform to test out. So I'll just quickly run through, kind of how to set up Pinterest if you're brand new, if you, need an account. And remember, all of these slides will be sent to you, so don't worry if I kind of go through this quickly, you'll still have access to everything. So to get started, it's totally free. You just need, your name, your business name, email address. And then if you have a website, which I definitely recommend, you can add that and connect it in Pinterest as well. So there is, one little step that you have to do to connect your website. You just have to add some code to the heading of your website. But this is so you can kind of build that trust with Pinterest by claiming your website and telling them, which website you're directing people to. And also so you can have the analytics for your website specifically. So if you don't claim your website, you're not going to be able to have the analytics of, the pins that are directing traffic to your website. You're only going to have, all of the pins that you've ever pinned. So this is really important if you want to make sure that you're tracking the traffic that you're getting from Pinterest and which pins are driving the most traffic. So once you have your account, you'll want to set up your profile. You can add a little blurb about who you are. Definitely recommend being specific and, incorporating some strong keywords about, what your services or products or, whatever is important about your business. And then you can set your, photo. If you have a, company logo that you want to use instead, you can definitely do that as well. And then this is kind of what it looks like once you're done. You can set kind of like this banner image at the top. So you can use that to kind of give some more information that you're not able to, fit in the little bio section, add a call to action, add, kind of some brand personality there. And then you'll see in this bio, when you have claimed your website, it'll also be listed before, the bio. You can, if you want, add links within the bio section, but they will not be hyperlinked. So, if you want to test that out, I definitely recommend using a link that has a UTM code, so that way you can check to see if anyone is actually like copying the link and pasting it in their browser. But that does take up a lot of, space in the bio. So I recommend, kind of just using that as the description about your business and, targeting strong keywords with that. So once you have your profile set up, you'll want to create some boards. So boards are basically categories on Pinterest for different pins that you're going to be, different topics that you're going to be pinning about. I recommend keeping all of the boards related to your business, related to, whatever content that you have. You can create boards, if you have some like personal boards that you want to have on Pinterest, you don't want to have to create a separate Pinterest account for. You can create boards that are secret, so that way only you see them. So on one of my Pinterest accounts, I have a bunch of secret boards for recipes. Recipes aren't related to my business or anything. So I don't want those really to be, public, because, it doesn't look like it's on brand, and it can confuse Pinterest about what the overall topic of my Pinterest account is. So when you're creating boards that are public, make sure that you add descriptive terms to the name. So those are, some strong keywords about what that board is about. So, for instance, if it's, you have a marketing business or something like that, don't just have a board that says, social media and a board that says writing or something like that. You want to be very descriptive. So you can have boards that are, Instagram tips for small businesses, or Facebook ad tips for businesses, or, kind of whatever the specific topic that your pins that are going to that board are about. I also recommend creating one board that kind of has all of your content. So if you're going to be pinning, from other accounts or something like that, having one board that has only your content on it can kind of help people who, if they come to your profile, they can immediately see which content is yours, to kind of get a quick overview of, what you're pinning about. So that way they know what your website is about if they want to visit, or if they want to, follow you or something like that on Pinterest. So I recommend starting with, maybe 5 to 10 boards. You don't need to go crazy and have like 200 boards or anything like that. You can just start off with a few, and that way, you can start filling up those boards and add more as you need them. What you don't want to do is, start off creating 50 boards, but then not have a lot of content for, 30 of them, so they look really empty. So just start off with, a few boards, and then you can kind of, break up boards if you need to, or add more on as time goes by.
Sorry to interrupt, Julia, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you got to this already, but we have a question in the chat from Betsy. She says, what is a UTM code?
Good question. So UTM code, you can do this through Google Analytics. So this is not a Pinterest specific thing, but basically a UTM code, and you can create them for like any link, any kind of tracking, but it will track separately, kind of what link people are clicking on. So that way, if you're like testing different emails or something like that, and you want to be able to track, which email is getting the most traffic or something like that, you can set an UTM code to see how many clicks it gets. So again, not through Pinterest, but if you want to like test something specific to see if people are clicking on a link, through the Pinterest bio, but Google Analytics isn't going to be able to track that link because they'd be copying and pasting it into the browser. That's when you want to use a UTM code to be able to track that information.
And one more question in the chat from Danielle. Can you add a business account to your personal one? And if so, can you easily add boards to each account without switching in and out of each one?
So I don't believe you can add a business account onto a personal one, but you can definitely switch a personal account to a business account. So having a business account is important because that's when you can claim the website and have access to analytics. So if you currently have a personal account, you can change it to a business account and have all that information. So if you currently have a personal account and you have a lot of maybe personal boards mixed in with business boards or something like that, you can change it to a business account and then make those personal boards secret so that everything is still consistent and on brand. Let me know if that makes sense. So you can't have like accounts added on top of each other, but you can transform them, or you can just completely create a new Pinterest account if you want to keep your personal Pinterest account personal and have a separate one for your business. Any other questions about boards or anything right now?
We are looking good in the chat. Thank you.
Okay. So after you have everything set up, the next thing that you want to do is create pins. So like I mentioned before, Pinterest is a visual search engine. So pins is what people are going to see. So if you're searching for something like on Google, what you're going to see are people's websites with the title tags and meta description. And then on Pinterest, what you see are the images ranking. So they need to be eye-catching to catch people's attention, get them interested in clicking from the pin to your website. So every pin is going to have a link with it. You can't create pins that are just a standalone image that don't connect to anything. So vertical images are going to be what stands out the most in Pinterest. If you're on Pinterest like 5 years ago, people used to create these super long infographics. Those get cut off anymore. So you want to just keep it, kind of a standard 2x3 image size. So, somewhere around the 600 by 900 pixel size. Does not have to be super long. If you use horizontal images, they typically look a lot smaller, especially if someone is using Pinterest on their phone. So that's why I recommend sticking with the vertical image. So you want to make sure that you're using graphics. So that's just literally an image with text on top of it. It does not need to be fancy. You actually want to try to keep it pretty simple. I've seen pins that have like 30 words on it and using 10 different neon colors. And those are just really hard to read, especially if the text needs to be really small, if you have so much text on the, the pin itself. So just kind of use it as a headline, keep it easy to read, on brand if that's important to you. And you don't have to use a million different colors and a million different fonts. I recommend steering clear of script fonts, unless there are some that are just, much bolder, easier to read, because script can tend to be really skinny and just really hard to read. This is also really important for accessibility. So maybe anyone who is has visual impairments, or uses screen readers to read, the images. If it's really hard for, the average person to read, it's likely much harder for anyone who's visually impaired to read it, or for the screen readers to tell them what's on the image. So keep it very clean, easy to read. You can start off with just, a very simple image with like a text overlay of, black Arial font or something like that, just to get started. And then you can kind of play around with designs as you get going. So you can use this platform called Canva to create pins for free. They do have some templates on the free account, so they already have the Pinterest sizes that you would need, so you don't have to worry about making sure that the size is correct. They also have like a pro account, I think. So if you want to get more advanced, have access to more templates or things like that, you can upgrade. But Canva, can be completely free if you stick with the free account. Once you have the pin design, you want to make sure that you're using keywords both on the image itself and then also within the pin description and the pin title, because this keywords are going to be the most important thing to help Pinterest know what to rank that pin for. We'll get into keywords in a little bit, but just make sure that you're using them on the pin itself. Pinterest AI is getting smarter about reading what is on the pin. So make sure that you're, have a strong headline that is incorporating keywords. Also, hashtags don't matter at all. Don't worry about them. Hashtags, I think, were introduced like 2 years ago or something like that. They were really big and really popular for like 6 months. And then now, like, no one uses hashtags. They don't really work. And Pinterest came out a few months ago and said, yeah, don't use hashtags. They don't really benefit you. No one uses them, no one's clicking on them, so don't worry about hashtags at all. So back to keywords. So you want to do keyword research to know, it can kind of give you ideas for what topics that you should be, writing about. And then also, to help your pins rank on Pinterest. So you can just do some simple keyword research by typing into Pinterest, words or phrases, and they're going to auto-populate with what other people have, searched related to that word or phrase. So this is a good idea to kind of, get some ideas going. And also, if you're not sure if people are searching for a specific topic, you can kind of check out to see if there have been past searches about it or related to it. It also shows you kind of like what it's possible to rank for. So if you do get, way too niche down, it might not be something that many people are searching for, so that pin might not get you a lot of traffic. Pinterest Trends is also a fairly new keyword research tool, so it's not available in every country. And it also doesn't have a lot of data yet. They have been adding more data with time, but if you try to use it and you see that your industry isn't on it, there aren't any keywords related to what your business is about, don't worry. Pinterest Trends does not have a lot of data. I've even tried searching things like Pinterest tips in it, and they don't have any data for that. So like even really basic things, they don't have information for yet. If you are able to use it for your industry, it can be pretty helpful for showing you how many searches a keyword has, and also what the searches are over time. So that way, if you have a seasonal business, or you write about seasonal topics or things like that, you can see when people are searching for it the most. So that way, you make sure you get the content up in plenty of time to be able to rank well when people are searching for that. So I recommend about 2 months before, if you can. 3 months before is even better. So that way Pinterest will be able to, read your pin and start to rank it well before the most people are searching for that.
Julia, 2 more questions in the chat. Small Biz Philly is asking, who owns the content that you post on Pinterest?
So the content that you're posting on Pinterest, I believe that you own. I don't think Pinterest owns it. I can double check that though, but I have not seen any issues with, like I know there have been issues with like Instagram using people's content and things. I have not heard of any issues related to Pinterest using people's content.
Okay, awesome. And the second one kind of goes along with what you were just saying, but Emily is asking, how active do you need to be on a daily basis to rank well? Do you have to post frequently to not get lost like other social media platforms?
I'll actually answer both of those questions in the next few slides. So if there's something that I don't answer soon, follow up and ask a question related to that. But I will be covering, how often to pin and everything.
Awesome, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the next slide. So the main goal with Pinterest is you want to make sure you're pinning consistently. So even if this is just 1 pin a day, that's better than pinning 10 pins one day and then not being on Pinterest for 2 weeks and then posting another 10. I will get into a scheduler that you can use so you don't have to manually be pinning every day, because I know that is annoying to be on a platform every day. So you can just schedule. Typically what I do is I schedule a month of pins, and then I don't really go on Pinterest very often unless I want to check on the data, or if I'm searching for something specific. So I typically recommend starting with pinning like 3 to 5 times a day. You don't want to be pinning too much because then you can, kind of look spammy. Pinterest really shut down on people, pinning 50 times a day about like a year or so ago. So I think it's crazy to be pinning 50 times a day. I don't know where all that content comes from, and that just, it's way too time consuming. So just start off with pinning a couple times a day. Again, you can pin 1 time a day to, kind of get you started and get you, used to pinning on Pinterest. But don't worry about, going crazy and pinning a bunch a day. So for things that you want to be pinning, so you do need to have actual content to pin on Pinterest. You can't just kind of like pin your website pages over and over again, because Pinterest really is for content. It's really for people searching for things. So, whether you have like a YouTube channel, or, if you have blog posts, podcast episodes, email freebies to get people to sign up for your email list, or, definitely products. That's the kind of thing that you want to be posting on Pinterest. So if you don't currently have content right now, I definitely recommend kind of like building that up before getting started with Pinterest. I mean, you can definitely create like an account and everything, but I wouldn't start, pinning a lot until you have that, content. For things like podcast episodes, there isn't a way to claim that website to track that, information. So I would, maybe host the podcast episode on your website, like as a blog post or something like that, to drive that traffic back to your website so you can track it and then lead people from there to a podcast episode. You can also turn those podcast episodes into blog posts. There's lots of different things that you can do. You can claim YouTube your YouTube channel on Pinterest. So if you do have a YouTube channel, you can pin directly to your YouTube videos, or you can do the same thing, create a blog post, embed YouTube videos, things like that. So you want to create a goal and make sure that you are, pinning consistently with that goal. So I've seen people that, they wanted a lot more email subscribers, but they never actually pinned, their email sign up pages. They weren't mentioning their email list within like their blog posts and things that they were pinning on Pinterest. So whatever your main goal is, make sure that everything that you're pinning goes back to that, whether you're pinning, the direct link to sign up to your email list if you have a freebie, or if you're, pinning blog posts or YouTube videos, something like that. Make sure you're talking about, whatever your main goal is, to lead people back to sign up for your email list, to check out your services, whatever it is that you're, trying to do more of. If you don't have a lot of content right now, but you want to be active on Pinterest, or, if you don't have a lot of content consistently, but what you want to continue to be active on Pinterest, you can pin from other websites to kind of help build up your profile. You don't have to pin from other websites if you have, a bunch of content, but it can be beneficial to kind of like keep you active on Pinterest without having to create, a million graphics every day to keep you active. You can also pin your top performing pins. I recommend like every few weeks or every few months to kind of help drive more traffic, especially for something that is seasonal. You want to make sure you go back and pin your seasonal pins from the previous year, or whenever that season is, to kind of give it a boost. You don't want to be repinning the same pins like every other day or something like that, because you want to be putting new content onto Pinterest, because that's going to be what helps your pins rank the most. So you can create multiple graphics for each piece of content. So that way you're not, having to create like 30 YouTube videos or 30, blog posts every month or something like that. Even if you just have a couple of pieces of content, you can create multiple graphics for, each piece of content to kind of, spread that out, get some more fresh content on Pinterest. And then you can always add on more graphics later. So if you have a blog post, create 2 graphics for it, 1 month, and then in a few months, if you want to create some more graphics to give that blog post another boost, you definitely don't have to create 30 graphics for one blog post at a time. I also recommend adding social media sharing buttons to your site to encourage people to pin your content for you. So, if you have like a graphic that you've created for a blog post, you can kind of add it to the end of the blog post or something like that, and encourage people to pin it. So that way, you're able to get even more traffic back to that blog post by more people pinning it directly from your website. So I'll cover products in case there's some people here who have like physical products. If you're on Shopify, it's really easy to kind of, connect things with the Pinterest app. And kind of be a verified merchant if that's something that you're interested in. You do want to, create graphics. I recommend for like product categories, or if you do have blog posts, YouTube videos, that kind of thing. But if you do have physical products, I also recommend just pinning, the actual image of the product, and then kind of testing out to see what type of picture performs the best. As you can see in this example, like every single photo is, a different angle, or, a different way it's being used. So there's no like specific type of image that's going, definitely going to perform the best. You kind of want to test out to see. Typically, pictures that don't show people's faces actually perform the best on Pinterest, which is, probably the opposite of everything you've been told about like Instagram or something like that. But if you're, unless it's like makeup or a hair product or something like that. But if it's, clothing or accessories or, whatever, just showing, from like the neck down, those pictures actually perform the best. If you have a lot of products that like go out of stock, then make sure that you have a way for people to sign up to be emailed if a product goes back into stock. So that way they don't come to your page, be really disappointed, and then just immediately leave. If it doesn't go back into stock or something like that, make sure that you're setting up redirects so people aren't being sent to like 404 error pages, because again, they're probably just going to leave your website and you could lose out on a customer. So make sure that, wherever people are this is for wherever people are coming from. So if it's from Facebook or something like that, You want to make sure that you are serving the customer in the best way. You don't want them just to leave your site immediately. Make sure you have, maybe related products that they can, check out in the meantime if something's out of stock, and definitely don't want to have them go to just an error page. It's also helpful to have the product information within like the pin description so that people know what to expect when they go to your website. So if they see a pair of shoes and they think, oh, these shoes probably look like they're like $40, they go to your website and they're $600, then they're likely not going to purchase, because their expectations were much different than what the actual product price was. And then you also want to make sure you're adding information about like maybe the materials that are being used. So that way, if someone is searching specifically for like, leather shoes or vegan shoes or something like that, your pins can rank for those keywords. And then you're also making sure that you're reaching the right people who are interested in your products. And then I also recommend creating blog posts, if it's applicable, creating blog posts for gift guides that feature your products. Gift guides are huge around like the holidays. I know Valentine's Day is coming up, so if you have anything related to Valentine's Day, gift guide is always really good for that. And then even if you don't want to do gift guides or something like that, make sure you're writing blog posts that maybe answer someone's question that would lead them to being interested in your product. So that way, you're not just putting all of your products on Pinterest, and then if you only have like 20 products, then you only have 20 pins. But having blog posts, gets more content, reaches more people who maybe aren't familiar with your product, but have a question that's related to it, so you can get them in the door a different way. So video pins, we've talked about, just images before, but video pins are, like they sound, they're actual videos. It's kind of hit or miss with some businesses. If you have something that's very visual, I recommend testing out video pins. If your business isn't super visual, if you don't have product or something like that, and you don't want to create videos, then maybe try just testing regular images before trying out video pins. Just because video pins typically don't have volume on. So just you standing in front of a camera talking is likely not going to catch people's attention. So, you do need to have something pretty visual to catch people's attention with the video. So square video actually works the best. Keep it pretty short, between 30 and 40 seconds. And then click rates on videos, so, going from the video to your website, are typically lower than on images. So that's, kind of something to be aware of, but saves are typically higher. So that means people are saving this pin and then coming back to it later, hopefully to, click through to your website. You do want to make sure that you're giving them a reason to click through to your website. So, like if it's a recipe, don't go through every single detail of creating that recipe. Kind of just show a snippet or show what the, final result is or something like that. So that way people have to click through to your website to learn how to make that specific thing. Idea pins are the newest thing on Pinterest. I think it's been up for about a year now. This is more of a social media element to Pinterest. So it's similar to Instagram stories, where it's a series of like videos or pictures or whatever you want it to be, but they don't expire after 24 hours. So they will live at the top of like your profile. And, they can rank on Pinterest, if you can't really add a description in the idea pin, but you can add a title. So if someone searches for a keyword and that's in the title, it can rank. But the downside of idea pins is that you can't add a link. So if someone watches the idea pin, they can't click from the pin to your website. They would have to go to your profile and then to your website from there. So people have some mixed reactions about idea pins. They personally aren't my favorite for the types of clients that I work with. But again, if you have something that's really visual, or something that you want to build a lot of brand awareness about, idea pins can be helpful. People can still, react to them or comment. And then you can, direct them to like the link in your profile. But it kind of depends on, what you want to be doing. If you want to be creating a bunch of videos, or if you want to make sure that you're creating pins that have links to them, It's kind of up to you whether or not you want to test out idea pins. You only need to create probably like 1 or 2 a week. You don't need to be creating idea pins every single day. And then you can also definitely, if you want to test out just like 1 or 2 here and there while focusing on, the static regular pins, you can definitely do something like that. So I personally haven't seen many benefits of it, but it's definitely something to test out, especially if you're in an industry where it could be very, very beneficial, if you want to be able to make sure that you're having more of that brand awareness, and if you have products or something like that, it's really helpful for showing them off in videos. So Pinterest has its own analytics. I still recommend checking things like in Google Analytics, because you can see, for people coming from Pinterest, how long they're staying on your site, which pages they're going to, and everything like that. But Pinterest will show you, lots of different metrics. So you can kind of see in the screenshot where there's a drop down, you can change that to track, how many pin saves that you're getting, how many people are clicking to your website from Pinterest, how many people are seeing your pins, how many people are engaging with your pins. So there are some different metrics that you can track in Pinterest Analytics. And again, you do need to make sure that you have your website claimed in order to be able to access the analytics specifically for your website. One thing I also like about Pinterest Analytics that you can't really get this information in Google Analytics is it will show you the exact pins that are, getting the most engagements, the most saves, the most, clicks to your website. So that we can track to see, what types of content are performing the best. If you're testing out like maybe a few different types of graphics, a few different designs, you can see, which designs are performing the best overall, in this area. I would say if you're pretty new to Pinterest, you do need to give it like at least 2 to 3 months before you can really start getting enough data to make, big decisions that will, direct the rest of the designs for your pins or things like that. But it is really helpful for, kind of tracking that specific data. So like I mentioned, you do need to be active on Pinterest every day. There's a tool called Tailwind that is beneficial for getting things scheduled out, so you don't have to manually be active in Pinterest every day. There are more like social media schedulers that have been adding on Pinterest lately. So if you're already on a social media schedule that now has Pinterest, you can definitely still use that. Tailwind was created specifically for Pinterest, and they have started adding on Instagram and Facebook. So that's kind of, Tailwind is a little bit different because it was focused solely on Pinterest to start with. So you can schedule out pretty far in advance. I usually do like a month at a time. And then Tailwind will take care of like, making sure that your pins are going out at strategic times for Pinterest. You don't have to create a schedule from scratch if you don't want to. You definitely can edit the schedule if you want to. You can reduce the number of pins that go out every day or add to it. But it is helpful just to kind of give you that guidance before you get going. It has its own analytics if you want to track to see, how well things are performing from Tailwind. And one perk that I've seen in Tailwind that I haven't seen in other social media schedulers is it has something called communities. So that way you can connect with other pinners in similar niches that your business is in. So if you've been around for a while, I think Tailwind changed the name of it like a year ago. It used to be called Tailwind Tribes, but now they're communities. And they're modeled off of group boards. So this is something that people started on Pinterest years ago, where they would add a bunch of people to a group board. Everyone could add their content, and then the idea was that everyone would share everyone else's content with their audiences. But there was no way to actually track if people were, sharing other people's content. So Tailwind kind of took that concept and improved it. So you can track to see, how many pins you've added to a community and how many, pins of your own have been shared, how many pins that other people have added and how many they've shared. So that most communities typically have rules where you have to have, for every pin that you add, you have to pin at least, one from someone else in the community. So it is beneficial for, kind of connecting with people in similar niches. If you do need to kind of like build up the content and you want to be pinning from other people, this is a good way of finding that, kind of quality pins that are, still related to your overall industry, so that way you don't have to go hunting on Pinterest for, different things. It kind of is helpful for, doing that work for you. You definitely don't have to be active on Tailwind Communities if that's not something you're interested in, but it is a perk that Tailwind has, over other social media platforms if that's something you're interested in. So that's most of the presentation. So what you want to make sure that you're doing, if you just have a few takeaways from this, you want to make sure that everything that you're doing is consistently on brand. All of the topics that you're pinning are consistent with your business. You're not pinning a bunch of things that aren't related to your business. You want to make sure that you're testing different keywords, designs. If you want to test out videos and idea pins, you definitely can. One thing I forgot to mention about Tailwind is because idea pins are pretty new, you can't currently schedule idea pins. I don't think you can on any social media platform right now, or social media scheduler right now, because idea pins are so new. So you do need to manually upload idea pins if you want to try that. You can create content on Pinterest that aligns with your goals. So if you're trying to build your email list, make sure everything that you're putting on Pinterest, goes back to that goal. Don't be, pinning a bunch of things that aren't related to your, email list or something like that. And then use Tailwind to help keep you on schedule, so you don't have to be manually pinning in Pinterest every day and wasting a bunch of time there. And when you're pinning, make sure you're pinning every single day. So even if that's just one pin a day to start with, just make sure you're consistent with it and can add more pins on as time goes on. And then you do need to give Pinterest time to gain traction and start building that traffic. You can typically expect growth of 1 to 5% each month. So if you're just starting out on Pinterest, you're not going to get a bunch of traffic in the first month. It's going to build on itself over time. So it is definitely a long-term social media strategy. You're not going to get a bunch of results, the next month or something like that. But if you are looking for, more sustainable traffic and you don't want to be, actively trying to get new followers every day or something like that, like you do on Instagram, Pinterest is a great platform for that. If you have any questions after this presentation, or if you go tomorrow and set up your Pinterest profile and then have questions from there, you can reach me at julia@juliareneeconsulting.com. And then I do have a bunch of Pinterest blog posts and other resources on my website, juliareneeconsulting.com. All right, so if there are any other questions, we can do them now. I can also open up like a Pinterest account for you if there's anything specific that you want to see, or if there's any specific data you want me to go over.
We do have a question from Jill in the chat. She said, if I would like to reach Spanish users in the US as well as Latin America markets, is there a better way to create bilingual pin/boards, or create a separate account dedicated to Spanish pin/boards?
Yeah, so I would say if you're trying to reach a demographic that speaks a specific language, I would write the pins in that language. Typically, if you're writing in English, that's going to be, reaching people in the US, UK, Australia, and just, other English speakers around the world. So if there's a specific demographic that speaks a specific language, I would write pins in that language. And then you can definitely test, seeing if English versus Spanish pins like drive more traffic or, reach different people, something like that. But yeah, I would at least test writing pins in Spanish to reach that demographic.
Okay, we're getting a lot, so this is good to fill. Johan is asking, on your second to last slide, a bullet said that Tailwind could schedule pins from other sites. Could you elaborate on that some? Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Pinterest has like a Google Chrome extension that you can add on. It's free. So if you're on a website and you like this particular post and you want to save it for later, if you want to add it to your queue or something like that, you just have to click the Tailwind extension, and then it'll prompt you, ask which pictures you want to save, and then I'll just add it to your queue for you.
Awesome.
This is also helpful if you're like a photographer or have a site that has a lot of images. And if you have a blog post that has 20 images that you want pinned, you can just use the Google Chrome extension and schedule all of them at the same time.
Okay. This is a kind of more broad question. Lynette is asking, hello, I want to use Pinterest to get my new book sold. Any elaborations on how to do that?
So I would say it kind of depends on what platform your book is being sold. I don't believe you can connect like an Amazon account to Pinterest right now. So I would recommend adding, pages or blog posts about your book on your website and then pinning to that. Since it's just one product, I would make sure that you have other content that you're, able to add to Pinterest. So if you have, an email list sign up, if you have YouTube channel, podcast, something like that. So that way you're not just pinning one link repeatedly on Pinterest.
Talia, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, just says, amazing session, great information, straight to the point. I love Pinterest, but didn't understand it now. LOL, I feel so much better. Also on that note, we do have a survey that I posted the link to in the chat. It takes honestly under a minute, and it is required by our funders just so that we can get feedback and improve these webinars for you guys. And we have another question. Does Pinterest download on-demand features?
I'm not quite sure I understand what that is. You can't.
Yeah, Lynette, if you could elaborate on that a little bit, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't believe you can like download pins if that's what the question is. But yeah, if you want to elaborate and let me know more details.
Click on the ebook and check downloads. She said, yes, I'm going to be working on a project with community photographers. I got my link when this was almost through. Click on the ebook and downloads.
Okay, so if you have something on your website that downloads, so you would have to use the pin to direct them to whatever page is on your website to download that product. So you can't, someone who clicks on your pin, that doesn't automatically download the product or ebook or whatever it is to their site. They would still have to go to your website and then click on whatever it is to download it.
Awesome. She said, okay, set up a pin like a recipe.
Yeah, so set up the pin, direct it to your website, and then whatever, have the page where they could download, whatever it is.
Oh, and this is helpful also. Talia, I'm so sorry, said, I use the Pinterest pinner extension for saving pins from my site to the boards. Easy to use this extension.
Yeah, I definitely use this extension. I probably use it more for my like personal like recipes or something like that. If I want to save for things that I want to add to like my schedule, so it'll go out, at more strategic times, then that's when I use like the Tailwind extension.
Okay. And we are looking pretty good in the chat right now. I know that Julia gave her contact information for any specific questions on Pinterest. If you have any broader questions, are you going to have replay? Yes. So everyone is going to get a link to a recording of this webinar and the PowerPoint that you can refer back to. Thank you, Julia. Very informative. And I think on that note, any broader questions, you can always email sbdc@temple.edu. And final reminder to please take the survey. We really appreciate it. All right, Julia, if you're good to close out, I think we're all set.
Yeah. Let me know if you guys have any questions or run into any issues as you're setting up your Pinterest account.
Okay, thanks so much. Everyone have a great rest of your week.
All right, thanks.
Bye-bye.